Good Friday morning. Thanks for joining us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Alicia Lewis. We have to update you on breaking news out of Brooklyn Park overnight. Right now, police are investigating a stabbing that sent 2 people to the hospital. It happened at around 1 a.m. just north of I-94 near Georgia Avenue and Bethia Lane. Audrey Russo has been tracking this for a few hours now. Audrey, what have you learned?
Well, in the initial 911 call that we overheard on the scanners, we could hear first responders talking about a man and a woman who had both been stabbed. The woman reported having a sword still lodged in her back. This was around 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, when our crews got to the scene at 1:30, all officers would confirm was that 2 people had been assaulted with an edged weapon. So take a look at this video. This is what we could gather at the scene. It was pretty dark at the time. Now, the corner house was the endpoint, police say, a place where the victims went for safety. They say that the assault happened elsewhere in the neighborhood. Now, police wouldn't comment on the victim's condition other than to say they were alert by the time help had arrived. Both victims are recovering at the hospital now. Police do tell us that this incident was domestic in nature. Back to you.
We're also following a developing situation in Spain right now. Fire crews are battling what they're calling the most devastating fire to date across the southern coast. Take a look at this brand new video into the newsroom. Officials say this is now one of the country's deadliest wildfires. We know 11 people have been killed, 19 others are still missing. The fire comes as that area has been under high temperature warnings. Several people are being forced to evacuate as 150 emergency crews battle the flames. Here at home, we're tracking 4 new wildfires up north. You can see on this map that there's more than a dozen small fires burning across northern Minnesota right now. Crews have been working this week to put them out. There's no closures as of now, but the U.S. Forest Service is asking people to stay away from those areas. They're also asking people to avoid flying drones anywhere near the wildfires, saying they threaten firefighter safety. The first defendants have pleaded guilty since daycare fraud came to light this past winter here in Minnesota. And that includes a woman who received more taxpayer money than any other child care provider in 2025. Fahima Mahamud was arrested in February after she closed Future Leaders Early Learning Center and booked a flight to London. The state did not accuse her of inflating attendance numbers, but instead not collecting required copay from families enrolled, presumably to let them attend for free while she collected taxpayer money. The government is pushing for her to pay back $4.6 million. Right now, a former daycare worker in St. Paul is charged with hitting a 4-year-old multiple times last month. A parent at the New Horizon Academy over in St. Paul reporting the alleged abuse after her son came home with bruises on his face. The details from the court documents are pretty harsh, to say the least. And court documents say video from inside that facility shows 29-year-old Aaron Burnett walking towards the child, and the child appeared frightened, then cried and ran away. Those documents say that Burnett picked the child up with one hand while repeatedly smacking him in the face with the other before leaving that child face down on the floor crying. St. Paul police say the child was struck up to 18 times, and there's several more children hit as well.
Some of the children that are involved in this are nonverbal. They begin crying, knowing that they have to go back to daycare.
Burnett has since been fired from New Horizon Academy. In a statement, the daycare said he, quote, grossly violated our safety standards and did not comply with our strict professional standards. Just horrible. Developing now, a pair of Wisconsin parents are suing Target after their baby died from swallowing a water bead toy in 2023. Target recalled the Chuckle and Roar Ultimate Water Bead Activity Kit 2 months after 10-month-old Esther Joe's death. Her parents say they bought it for their older kids, but say the infant died after swallowing a single bead. The lawsuit alleges Target was aware the beads posed a serious risk if inhaled or eaten and should have recalled the toy sooner. Tensions are high after the U.S. and Iran traded attacks earlier in the week, threatening to implode their agreement to end the war. There were no new American strikes overnight, according to a U.S. official, but deep mistrust on both sides is raising some doubts about a long-term path to peace. NBC's Alice Barr has more.
Hi there. Well, we're tracking an apparent pause in the fighting in the Middle East. We're also learning more about President Trump swapping planes midway through his flight back from the NATO summit in Turkey this week and the security precautions that may have been behind that. After 2 nights of strikes between the U.S. and Iran overnight last night, a tense standoff, with Iranian state media reporting explosions across the country. A U.S. official tells NBC News American forces did not launch new strikes, but have been shooting down incoming Iranian drones and missiles aimed at neighboring nations. The official said there are no reports of injuries or significant damage to U.S. bases in the region. Iranian Americans again fearing for the family they left behind.
Everybody's shocked because they thought they're going to stop the war, so everybody's scared again.
On Thursday, huge crowds gathered for the burial of the Iranian supreme leader killed in an airstrike at the start of the war launched by the U.S. and Israel. The burial ends a week of funeral processions that have included calls for retribution against President Trump, all as we're learning new details about security precautions involving Air Force One. 2 sources now say that while there was no specific threat, the Secret Service recommended President Trump fly in the old Air Force One when taking off from the NATO summit in Turkey Wednesday, instead of the new one that was gifted by Qatar and upgraded with what the White House called high-level security protocols. Sources familiar with the aircraft now tell NBC News it does not have all the defensive capabilities built into the older military-grade presidential plane. The president downplayed concerns.
I have a threat all the time. I'm number 1 on their list.
While he again asserted Iran wants to make a deal for long-term peace, but that he doesn't know if they'll stick to it. As for the critical Strait of Hormuz, sources and data show traffic plunged through that vital shipping route this week after the flare-up and fighting that started with Iran firing on commercial ships in an effort to exert control over the strait, all of it with a direct impact on oil and gas prices. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Developing this morning, the world's #1 ranked hospital is facing a federal lawsuit over its use of artificial intelligence. Mayo Clinic is accused of putting patient care and privacy at risk. Gordon Severson has the details.
A former employee is suing the Mayo Clinic, arguing that she was fired because she was a whistleblower and raised concerns about how the company was using artificial intelligence. Specifically, she was concerned about the privacy of patients' information, their private information. Now, the company denies these allegations, arguing that they are following the proper policies and procedures, and they do take the privacy of their patients very seriously. Now, this case brings up a very interesting conversation, an ongoing debate over major companies, specifically in the medical field, about how they should use artificial intelligence and what safeguards should be in place.
There's still no agreement this morning between Chisago County and the union workers, now on strike for more than 70 days. The county tells KARE 11 they're disappointed yesterday's mediation session was unsuccessful. They say the biggest issue is the union's request for higher pay, but they say they're committed to good faith bargaining. We've reached out to the union, but we haven't heard back. Right now, more than 70 cats are preparing for adoption after being rescued from an extreme hoarding situation. The Animal Humane Society says they responded to a tip about the animals at a home in Sibley County. Investigators say the cats were living among feces and crumbling walls. They say the animals didn't have water and ammonia levels were dangerously high. The homeowner abandoned the house but left the cats and released them to the agency, many of them suffering respiratory issues and open wounds.
These animals don't have anybody else, and so it's really awesome to be able to offer them what they need simply by just being here.
So the cats will need to be fixed and vaccinated, but some could be available for adoption as soon as next week, right here in Golden Valley. Well, tomorrow night, the Minnesota Aurora will take the field in the national semifinals over in Seattle. They're going for their first title in club history. Megan McPherson has details.
Yeah, this could be the team. The Aurora are just 2 wins away from their first USLW championship. The team's road to a national title now includes a cross-country road trip, though, after losing their bid to host the match, despite finishing with the league's best record and leading the league in attendance. It's frustrating. But on a positive note, it's the 2nd straight year that the Aurora have reached the national semifinals. And you can join other fans at the Black Cart in St. Paul tomorrow night for the team's official watch party. If you can't make it there, you can also stream the match for free on sportsengineplay.com. And to help fans make the trip on short notice, this is kind of fun. Sun Country Airlines is offering 50% off select flights to Seattle, and you can also save 20% on match tickets with the code Aurora20.
Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.